The winds of Epsilon Centauri IV howled across the frozen wasteland like ancient spirits mourning their dead. Commander Raven Blackwood stood at the viewport of Research Station Theta, watching ice crystals dance in the planet's permanent twilight. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she thought she'd seen everything the universe could throw at her. She was wrong. The emergency beacon had appeared 3 days ago, its signal unlike anything in human or known alien databases. The station's small crew had debated responding. Protocol dictated caution with unknown signals, but Blackwood couldn't ignore what sounded like a cry for help, even if it came from something they'd never encountered before. The rescue team's crawler ground to a halt at the edge of a massive crevasse. Through the swirling snow, Blackwood's thermal imaging picked up a heat signature deep within the ice. Something large was down there, and it was alive. "Engineering, what's your read?" She called over the comm to Kai Patel, their technical expert. "Signal's strongest here, Commander. Whatever's broadcasting. It's about 200 meters down. But these readings, they're off the charts. Either our equipment's malfunctioning, or we're dealing with technology far beyond our understanding." Blackwood made her decision. "Prep the descent gear. Lieutenant Frost, you're with me. The rest of you maintain position and keep the engines warm." As they rappelled down the ice wall, their helmet lights revealed a sight that made Blackwood's breath catch. Embedded in the translucent ice was a structure. No, a vessel. Its organic curves suggesting something grown rather than built. And through a patch of clearer ice, she could see movement inside. They found an entry point where the ice had partially melted around what appeared to be an emergency hatch. It took Frost's plasma torch 20 minutes to cut through the remaining ice. The moment they breached the hull, their suit sensors registered a breathable atmosphere. Inside, bioluminescent panels cast an eerie blue glow across corridors that seemed to pulse with life. They followed the distress signal to what appeared to be a control center. There, suspended in a crystalline stasis field, floated a being that defied description, part aquatic, part insectoid, with an intelligence in its multifaceted eyes that struck Blackwood to her core. The creature's containment field flickered dangerously. Whatever powered this place was failing. As they approached, the being's thoughts touched their minds, not with words, but with images and emotions. Its people were called the Nixtheri, masters of biological technology. This was a research vessel, studying the ice planet's unique properties when catastrophe struck. The crew had sacrificed themselves to keep their most precious cargo safe, a database containing their species' entire scientific knowledge. But there was something else, something the creature was holding back. When Blackwood pressed further, the mental contact became tinged with desperation and guilt. The Nixtheri showed them glimpses of their homeworld, once a paradise, now dying from a self-inflicted wound. Their biological technology had evolved beyond control, threatening to consume everything in its path. They needed help, but their request carried a terrible risk. The database contained both the means of their destruction and potentially their salvation. In the wrong hands, it could unleash the same devastation across the galaxy. The creature was asking not just for rescue, but for humanity to become guardians of knowledge that could either save or destroy civilizations. As Blackwood processed this revelation, warning lights began flashing throughout the vessel. The power system was reaching critical failure. They had minutes at most to make a decision that could affect the fate of multiple species. "Commander," Frost's voice cracked over the comm. "Those energy readings are spiking. If this place goes, it's taking the whole crevasse with it." Blackwood looked into the alien's eyes, seeing both hope and fear reflected there. The weight of command had never felt heavier on her shoulders. Protocol said to retreat, to report to Earth Command, and wait for instructions. But sometimes, she knew, mercy demanded action over caution. She reached for the stasis field controls, her decision made. Whatever consequences followed, she couldn't let another sentient being die when she had the power to prevent it. Not even if that mercy came with a price none of them yet understood. The return journey to Research Station Theta tested every ounce of Commander Blackwood's piloting skills. Their crawler's cargo hold now contained both the rescued Nyx Thuri, still suspended in a portable stasis unit, and the crystalline database that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. The alien vessel had imploded behind them, leaving nothing but a smoking crater in the ice. Dr. Nasir Rahman, the station's xenobiologist, waited for them in the decontamination chamber. His dark eyes widened at the sight of their passenger. "Remarkable," he whispered, pressing his hand against the containment field. "The biological complexity. It's like nothing in our records." The Nyx Thuri's mental voice touched their minds again, stronger now that it was freed from the failing systems of its ship. Images flowed, vast cities grown from living matter, ships that were more organism than machine, and the terrible beauty of their mistake. The biotech that had evolved beyond their control, consuming their world piece by piece. "We need to contact Earth Command," Lieutenant Frost insisted, but Blackwood raised her hand. "Not yet. Something's not right." She turned to the alien. "You're showing us these things for a reason. What aren't you telling us?" The mental connection deepened. The Nyx Thuri revealed more. Their civilization hadn't just accidentally lost control of their technology. A faction among them had deliberately pushed their biological engineering to its limits, believing they could control evolution itself. The result was a techno-organic plague that didn't just destroy, it transformed, creating nightmarish hybrid creatures that spread across their world like a virus. The database contained their most advanced research, including the code of the plague itself. The Nyx Thuri scientists had hoped to find a cure, but time had run out. They'd scattered across the galaxy, hiding their knowledge in hopes that other species might succeed where they had failed. "This is beyond us," Kai said, shaking his head. "We need to quarantine everything and wait for." The station's alarms cut him off. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, the AI announced. IFF identifies them as the Helios Corporation Research Fleet. Blackwood's blood ran cold. Helios, the megacorporation known for its aggressive biotech research and disregard for ethical constraints. They must have detected the alien signal too. How did they get here so fast? Frost demanded. The Nyx Thuri's mental voice carried a new emotion, recognition. More images filled their minds. Helios ships had been tracking their vessel for weeks. They'd detected the database's energy signature and followed it here. "They can't get their hands on this," Blackwood declared. "Not with their track record." "Rahman, how long would it take to decode this data?" "Months, maybe years, even with our best systems. The biological encryption is. We don't have months." She turned to the alien. "Can you transfer it? Hide it somewhere they won't find it." The Nyx Thuri's response came in a flood of urgent imagery. The database couldn't be moved conventionally. Its biological nature made it unstable outside its containment field. But it could be integrated with another living system, merged into the genetic code itself. "A host," Rahman breathed. "It needs a living host to carry it safely." The implications hit them all at once. Someone would have to physically merge with the alien database, becoming a living repository of the most dangerous biological knowledge in known space. Outside, the Helios ships began their descent through the atmosphere. They had minutes at most before boarding parties would breach the station. The choice before them was impossible: risk letting this knowledge fall into dangerous hands, or volunteer for a transformation that could not be undone. Blackwood stared at her reflection in the stasis field, watching it ripple like water. The weight of command, the price of mercy. Sometimes they were the same thing. "Rahman, prep the medbay." "Kai, start wiping the station's records." "Frost." She turned to her oldest friend. "If this goes wrong, you know what to do." The Nyx Thuri's eyes met hers, and in them she saw both gratitude and mourning. Whatever she was about to become, there would be no going back. The transformation was agony. Commander Blackwood's screams echoed through the medbay as the crystalline database merged with her nervous system. Dr. Rahman monitored her vitals, his face grim as her genetic code rewrote itself in real time. The Nix theory maintained mental contact, guiding the process, but even it couldn't fully shield her from the pain. Through the haze of suffering, Blackwood began to understand. The database wasn't just information, it was memory, experience, the collective knowledge of an entire civilization encoded into living data. As it integrated with her consciousness, she saw the Nix theory's full history unfold. Their rise, their achievements, their fatal pride. The med bay door slid open. Lieutenant Frost stood guard, weapon ready. Helios teams have breached the lower levels. Kai's holding them off with security protocols, but it won't last. Blackwood could barely speak, her body trembling as foreign DNA reshaped her cellular structure. How many? 3 shuttles, heavily armed. They're not even pretending this is a research mission. The Nix theory's mental presence intensified, sharing urgent knowledge. The transformation would make her stronger, faster, capable of things no human should be able to do. But it would also make her a target. The Helios Corporation wouldn't stop hunting her, not with what she now carried inside her. Through the station's walls, she could hear them coming. Her enhanced senses picked up the sound of boots on metal, the hum of energy weapons, the whispered commands of professional killers. But something else was changing too. The pain was fading, replaced by a surge of power unlike anything she'd ever experienced. Blackwood sat up, ignoring Rahman's protests. Her skin had taken on a subtle iridescence, and when she moved, it was with an alien grace. The database's knowledge flowed through her mind like a river, terrifying in its scope, but somehow controlled. She could access it without drowning in it. "Commander," Frost whispered, "your eyes." She caught her reflection in a medical screen. Her irises now shimmered with the same crystalline quality as the database, marking her forever as something other than fully human. The price of her choice made manifest. The station shook as explosions rocked the lower levels. Through her new senses, Blackwood could feel the Helios team's approach like predators closing in on prey. But she wasn't prey anymore. "Get to the emergency shuttle," she ordered. "All of you, including you," she said to the Nix theory. "I'll hold them off." "Not a chance," Frost countered. "We're not leaving you." "That's an order, Lieutenant. I'm not the only one who needs protecting now." She gestured to the Nix theory. "Their people need a voice, a witness to their warning. Make sure Earth Command understands what's at stake." Rahman stepped forward. "The transformation isn't complete. If you push yourself too hard, it's complete enough." Blackwood flexed her fingers, watching patterns of light dance beneath her skin. "I can feel it. Everything they knew about biological warfare, defense, enhancement, it's all here. And I know how to use it." The Nix theory's final transmission carried both pride and sorrow. They had chosen well, but the burden they'd placed on her was enormous. She was now a living weapon, a library of forbidden knowledge, and perhaps the only hope of preventing their tragedy from repeating itself. The station's security doors buckled under another explosion. Helios troops would breach the med bay in minutes. "Go," Blackwood commanded. "That's my final order. Whatever I've become, I'm still your commanding officer." As her crew reluctantly retreated toward the escape pods, Blackwood turned to face the sealed doors. Inside her, the living database hummed with potential, offering options that both thrilled and terrified her. She could feel her body continuing to change, adapting, evolving. The choice she'd made couldn't be undone. But maybe, just maybe, it could be the right one. The Helios strike team never stood a chance. They found Commander Blackwood waiting in the medbay. But the woman they faced was no longer entirely human. As they breached the doors, she moved with impossible speed, her transformed biology responding to threats before they fully manifested. Their weapons proved useless against her enhanced physiology. The database had given her more than knowledge. It had granted her the Nix theory's biological mastery. Her skin deflected energy blasts, and when they switched to projectile weapons, her wounds sealed instantly. But it was what she did next that truly terrified them. With a thought, she released microscopic spores that invaded their combat suits' seals. Within seconds, the supposedly impenetrable armor began to dissolve, transformed by the same principles that had doomed the Nyx-Theri homeworld. She took no lives, but left them unconscious, their equipment reduced to organic sludge. Through the station's systems, she monitored her crew's escape. The emergency shuttle launched successfully, carrying both her people and the last surviving Nyx-Theri to safety. But as she fought her way through the station, something inside her was changing. The database wasn't just information anymore. It was evolving, reacting to combat situations, suggesting more aggressive solutions. Subject is demonstrating unprecedented capabilities. She heard a Helios commander transmit, requesting immediate containment protocols. More troops arrived, these ones equipped with specialized containment gear. They launched cryogenic weapons, trying to slow her enhanced metabolism. Blackwood responded instinctively, her body generating heat that shattered the freezing agents. But each adaptation came with a price. She could feel the database pushing her further from humanity with each passing moment. The station's AI warned of critical damage to multiple systems. The Helios forces were getting desperate, willing to destroy the facility rather than leave empty-handed. Through her enhanced senses, Blackwood detected their ship's positioning for a bombardment. Then came the transmission that changed everything. Commander Blackwood. The voice belonged to Director Richards, Helios Corporation's head of special projects. What you're carrying could revolutionize human advancement. Think of the possibilities. Disease eradication, enhanced human capabilities, biological immortality. Work with us. Help us understand it. For a moment, she wavered. The database showed her glimpses of potential futures. Humanity ascending to new heights, transcending their physical limitations. But it also showed her the cost. The same horrors that had consumed the Nyx-Theri civilization, multiplied across human space. You don't understand what you're asking for, she replied, her voice carrying harmonic frequencies that made the station's metal walls vibrate. This knowledge isn't meant for us. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Then you leave us no choice. Richard's voice hardened. If we can't have the database, no one will. The station's sensors detected multiple warheads launching from the Helios ships. They weren't trying to capture her anymore. They were going to vaporize the entire facility. In that moment, the database offered her one final adaptation. She could survive the explosion, transform herself into something that could endure even the vacuum of space. But the cost would be the last traces of her humanity. As klaxons blared and destruction approached, Commander Raven Blackwood made her choice. She had already sacrificed so much in the name of duty. Perhaps it was time to sacrifice something else in the name of wisdom. The warheads never reached their target. As they approached Research Station Theta, something extraordinary happened. The entire facility began to change, its metal and composite structures transforming into a massive organic barrier. Commander Blackwood had turned the station itself into a living shield, using the database's knowledge to rewrite matter on a molecular scale. The explosions that followed were spectacular but futile. The transformed station absorbed the energy, adapting and regenerating faster than it could be destroyed. Inside, Blackwood felt every impact, every change, as if the station had become an extension of her own body. Director Richards watched in horror from his command ship as tendrils of living metal reached out from the station, ensnaring the Helios vessels. But instead of crushing them, the tendrils began transmitting data, carefully selected fragments of the Nyx-Theri database. This is what you wanted to understand. Blackwood's voice echoed through every ship's communication system. Not the weapons or the enhancements, but this. The price of pushing too far, too fast. Watch and learn. The transmitted data showed the fall of the Nyx-Theri civilization in vivid detail. The hubris, the devastation, the lessons paid for in extinction. But it also showed something else. Hope, the possibility of advancement without destruction, of evolution guided by wisdom rather than ambition. As the images faded, Blackwood made her final move. The living station began to collapse in on itself, forming a dense organic sphere. Inside, she initiated the last protocol the database had taught her, a biological stasis field that would take both her and the knowledge he carried out of reach. "The database stays with me," she announced, "not as a weapon or a tool for corporate profit, but as a reminder. When humanity is ready, truly ready, to learn from the Nix-Theory's mistakes, I'll return. Until then, consider this my resignation." The sphere descended into the ice planet's crust, burrowing deep beneath the surface where no sensors could detect it. The Helios ships, their crews shaken by what they'd witnessed, retreated to lick their wounds and reconsider their priorities. Months later, Lieutenant Frost stood before the Earth Defense Council, the last surviving Nix-Theory at her side. Their testimony, combined with the evidence from the Helios incident, led to new regulations on biological research and corporate expansion. The Nix-Theory was granted asylum, becoming an advisor on the ethical development of biotechnology. Deep beneath the ice of Epsilon Centauri IV, Commander Raven Blackwood dreams in her crystalline cocoon. The database continues its work, preparing her for a future where humanity might be ready for the knowledge she guards. Her sacrifice bought time. Time for wisdom to catch up with ambition, for responsibility to match capability. Sometimes, on quiet nights at Research Station Beta, now rebuilt on the planet's surface, sensors detect strange readings from deep underground, patterns that suggest something down there is waiting, watching, evolving. A reminder that the price of mercy isn't always paid in full at once, but in patient vigil across years or centuries. The legend of the commander who became something more than human to protect humanity from itself lives on, not as a cautionary tale, but as a promise. When we're ready to learn without conquering, to advance without destroying, she'll return. Until then, she remains a guardian of dangerous knowledge, a living testament to the wisdom that sometimes the greatest victories come not from what we achieve, but from what we choose not to do.